Hello, folks. This is Psychic Underlord from psychicunderlord.shop as well as psychicunderlord.com. And you're here on our YouTube page. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button to our page so you're able to get the first notice of information when we release it here on our page. This is a top secret message, and I have to put this out on the internet. I've done some remote viewing of the war in Iran, and I've come to realize that the war as we recognize it through the media is nothing like what is actually happening. I had a very powerful session of psychic remote viewing, and I want to share my findings with those of you on YouTube who are concerned about what is occurring in the Middle East. The war is not some type of simple cut and dry missiles being traded back and forth, a few people dying. This is actually World War III. I encourage you again to please click the subscribe button. Please subscribe to our channel because this is where the information will be provided in a very respectful manner. I know that the YouTube algorithms are very keen to things that it does not like. So I'm going to try to make things as clear as I can for those of you in the intelligence community who are interested in finding out what's happening. I want to talk about the first things that I've remote viewed. Um, Drones are the new line of engagement. They are being deployed in Iran at scale for purposes such as lifting, carrying, transporting. They have mechanized an entire fleet of war utilizing robotic instruments, using drones to transport and do things that have ordinarily would have required individuals and people to do. So that means that they're able to get things heavy, very heavy things are being carried in the sky in Iran utilizing drone technology. And it's frightening because whether they are equipped with guns or missiles, I did not see them firing, but I saw them carrying large, let's say 1,000 pounds or more being carried in the sky at scale on conveyor type flight routes, one after another, being carried to locations where they connect with the individuals. Foreigners are actually be, being used as cannon fodder in the middle of the war. All of these people traveling overseas, all of these people, I had no idea it was this many foreigners in Iran. And I'm also going to get to the other part of the traders and things that are happening inside of Iran as well as the United States right now dealing with foreigners. The allegiance of the foreigners who do not belong in that land is to their native country. I know that people say they love their country, they love America, they love wherever they're from. This is has shown itself to be a blazing, abject lie. These people, you can't have allegiance to a country that you're essentially using for money versus a country of your origin where your family, their families come first. So the foreigners are in the middle of this war. Even on the Iranian side, they are abandoning ship. And so the drones are picking up because they're not able to deputize and recruit people arbitrarily into the war because they are foreigners. So they may be from Sri Lanka, They may be from Pakistan, they may be from other areas around Iran, and they are abandoning ship to the point, and I'm going to get into the other companies that are involved in the process of the trade. They have a cartel that is moving people secretly out of Iran and into Iran. So people are repatriating back into Iran from other countries who have perhaps come to America for school or for money. They are being moved back into Iran to get involved with the war, as well as drones filling in the gaps. The internationals, there are these clearinghouses that they have in Iran where the people who are abandoning ship, these companies look like regular Iranian companies, job agencies, uh, agencies that deal with um, potential um, Iranian nation, uh, things that are nationalistic, patriotic looking Iranian businesses are actually being used, many of them being used as cartels. The foreigners are entering these businesses, and the process of the business inside is the shipping and the moving of them out of Iran and getting people back into Iran. So it looks like it's just, oh, this is an employment agency. That's a grocery store. That is a hotel. No, these people are intensely involved in the logistics of the war, and they are clearinghouses of Iranian individuals and foreigners and internationals who are moving in and out so they can bypass the process of utilizing things that may be targets, such as the major airports, such as, and when you have this many things in the sky and the radar is full of red, what is being shot at, what is being targeted? There's intelligence on the ground, there's intelligence that is monitoring. The air traffic is intense in the entire region. Even the countries on the that are hundreds and thousands of miles away from Iran are a part of this. As you see, kamikaze missiles are being sent into these other countries. So these clearinghouses, these for intelligence, these are not grocery stores. These are not hotels. These are places where Iran is profiteering through the travel and through the in and out of things into this country, aircraft that may not look like military aircraft or has any threat. They're being used for logistics, moving their soldiers and their sleeper cells around the world. There are traders on the inside. There are companies. You can look at a newspaper in Iran when I was looking, and these actually also exist here in the United States, which is frightening and chilling because I reversed my remote viewing in the midst of it to verify and see, well, is this actually happening stateside? What's happening is that the traders are sitting inside of regular office buildings working. So during the war, they say that these people are being held captive by the war and they're in a nation that is at war. So how do people survive? They wake up and go to work every day just as they always have. So they go into these businesses, and inside of these businesses are people who are doing things specifically for the war effort. These are not office buildings. These are being used. These people are not neutral. Citizens are not neutral. In the fact, in war, in the war engagement, they have the terms of war and the rules of engagement. But when it comes to the individuals inside, they're willing to do just about anything, to the point that if on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being that they were 100% for the Iran wars, of the people, of them bombing other countries, of them having nuclear uh, weapons of mass destruction, of them killing their own people. These people have been brainwashed. They are living in a reality that they do not want peace, and they work as a propagandist uh, unit in a mill, and they receive intelligence from the Iranian government, and they are deployed at scale. So it looks like there are people just going to work, and these people have been taken over by the war. So they essentially are an unsafe commodity. We're trying to save people, we're trying to eliminate the effects of the war. We're trying to have conversations and talks about the war. They're not willing to talk. They're willing to take uh, siege of their own people and use them. And these people have been trained. These people in these office buildings have been trained in Iran to serve as sleeper cells. They are ready to give their lives. The drones are filling in the gaps, and we have other technologies that are being deployed at scale in Iran that I remote viewed that are chilling, are absolutely frightening. We have now issues with transportation and stranding, naturally, because it is a very arid, large space, very poor infrastructure, very much a feudal an atmosphere where people live and die in the same villages. They not a lot of traveling, but those are a part of the urban class. Those are part of the urban elite. They are accustomed to traveling. They're accustomed to moving around for business or for work. They have basically been siloed in those offices. They've maintained, if they're not able to travel hundreds of miles back and forth safely to get to it, it's a benevolent, it's a inevitable effect that the individuals in their homes have already been prepared for war as the process of them doing nuclear enrichment, working as a global terror uh, unit, as them being comfortable with these types of things. They have established in ground home bunker systems to maintain their safety in the effect of a war, which they have been doing. And they have their own foodstuffs and pantries that those people are subsisting from during the war. And on average, 100 days of full food rations. Uh, that is even more than many people in other countries have. That's over 3 months worth of full food without taking in additional food and water from the outside. So there has a very prepared group of individuals in Iran. Many people are fully stocked and stacked for the war, and those of the urban elite who are siloed in those buildings are being used as kamikazes, as those who would be called into the war strategically, step by step, and moved about just as an urban citizenry, yet they soon will come into the fray. A lot of stranding, a lot of roads have been destroyed, a lot of thoroughfares to get around. So people are isolated. So those buildings have become extremely uh, populated by people who work there, and they also live there at this time. Food and supplies is being consolidated. The government of Iran is moving food into these urban centers because they know that the people who work in these buildings are also living there in the buildings. And they are subsisting from these small markets. They are distributing water. Uh, I saw cheeses, things that are lesser perishable, hardened um, baked goods, non perishables, and canned goods. I saw them being being deployed um, in a large way to those individuals, and also money and trade in that area. You say, well, people, how do they live? If they're not working, if they're not able to trade, and the businesses cannot pay them, how are they doing it? They, if when they run out of money, they take the allegiance to the caliphate. They take the allegiance to the Caliphate of Iran and become sleeper cells, living in those buildings, receiving food rations, sleeping on floors, surviving. They're supposed to be doing something in those buildings, but they can't. They've just been there, and those buildings, certain ones, have been taken over by the Iranian government. They've sent soldiers, plain dress soldiers, into those buildings to take over and say that this is now our property during the war. And then they're moving people in and out that are dressed in plain clothes, and they're sleeping and living in there as they await to be called into the draft. Vehicles are very short in supply. Many moving vehicles around the roads during the war um, were lost, and there's also a lot of carnage, a lot of vehicles sitting on the sides of the road, in the middle of the road, blocking the roads, burned out vehicles. It is an extreme war zone. Every city, from what I saw in Iran, looks like it has these, I don't want to say no way in, no way out. Um, because, of course, I did look at every road, and there are back roads that people take to get to other locations that may take longer. And there may be involved in the coyote transport system where people are getting people out to these, back to their families, or for their families to come into those urban centers. They may even, during the war, as it intensifies, be calling their families through those back roads into the cities because they want them to serve for the caliphate and jump into the war, because those foodstuffs, as I told you, are only in 90, 100 days on average, which is substantial for most people, because most people are so comfortable. Ask yourself, how much do you have in store? So vehicles are in short supply. So there are much less vehicles on the road. It might be even more dangerous to be driving in something like a tractor trailer truck, because we have so many people making decisions and so many people looking at certain things. It may be an unwise decision. The shelter in these office buildings has become more and more congested, but it's being fortified by the Iranian military, who are turning these office buildings, and that have been clearly identified by intelligence as civilian locations, without a prior history, without a prior record, and without proper recognizance, following the people, where they're going and what they're doing, and building a dossier of how this process is occurring. It may be uh, to someone's knowledge to understand that all of this has been taken over and is invested in the war. Suicide teams. I want you to understand this. These are the aspects of the war that are now being utilized. Suicide teams, individuals who are willing to die collectively and serve as group decoys. Now, this is when we're talking about on a soldier's level. When the soldiers, when they dress the same, when they're trained the same, it takes a while to train people. So this, having these urban silos and bringing the people into the city, offering them money, offering them opportunity. It looks like a good opportunity for many people, because what are their chances anyway? They can't go anywhere. They don't want to go anywhere. And they want to be able to help their country. And they believe in the terror that they lived under all of these decades. They fully believed it. Their children believe it. They've been raised and brainwashed into this system, which is insidious and dangerous. These suicide teams are being trained to move the same, to walk the same, to bend at this. It's almost like as if they're dancing. They're being taught to dance because their concept is that they will all take on bulletproof armory across their entire body. And then when they're shot, they can serve as human shields or a human wall. When you have 15 to 20 people that can move identically, simultaneously, it becomes confusing because all of the ethics and all of these things that come into the ground war, they are preparing now for ground invasion, and they're going to deploy every type of technology that has never been seen. This is World War III. When you see 20 men moving like the Matrix, moving like Neo, bending back, bending forward, every part of their body is being trained for strength, flexibility. It's gonna when you're gonna think, well, what am I looking at? What am I seeing, especially in the dark? Especially when you have things that are being deployed. They also can imitate that, pretend that they're dying, but really be alive. So the soldiers, they won't know if the enemy has been killed. They will shoot, they'll fall, they'll move on. Then they all will get up again, and then they will work to subdue again, chasing. So now the enemy is chasing after those who seek the ground war and to deploy. So we have to be prepared for these type of apparitions, these mystical presentations, mystical ancient presentations, utilizing dance and movement. And especially, I have not seen it on the side of females, but I've seen it on the side of men, and it was extremely, overwhelmingly impressive and shocking at the same time to see that this actually happens. And then the engagement moves closer and closer and closer in physical combat. This is dealing with someone who has no gun. So these are essentially suicide sleeper cells utilized in group fashion in ancient Iranian dance adornment, creativity, and this could be also perceived as possibly um, a white flag type of effort and a crying out for assistance from the United States. In the middle of the engagement, uh, a group of people who are unarmed being slaughtered, yet wearing bulletproof technology and emerging to subdue those soldiers should they encounter these Middle Eastern types of presentations, which are happening. I call them suicide teams, clones, clones, clones. We've returned to this. I ask you again to subscribe to this channel. In my remote viewing, the nation of Iran has clones. They have humanoid bipedal things that walk around that are not human beings. These are being used as information transfer. They have technology inside of their bodies connected to satellites and another technology that cannot be jammed. An organic, biological, technological link through the watery biologics of the clone connected to the satellite, taking that information over throughout the country and throughout the world. transmitting information that goes to them through simple conversations, through information presented to them. And you say, well, how, if it's biological, it's a clone of human beings, and we don't have that capacity. The the mind and the fixing of the mind has been completely transformed into nothing but information transfer architecture. They see something, red shirt, blue jeans, 5 o'clock in the morning, or this corner, that data is being transferred through those clones who are simply doing recognizance, being sent up the street and sent back up the street, sending down the road and up the road. These things are observing cars that go by. They're observing frequency, not in a conscious way, but in a collective data point manner through, I'm not going to say the name of the company. This is a company that is an international company that is widely known for its biologics and its surgically inserted devices. It's not a wearable, it's a livable device. These are livable device clones whose minds have been taken over and are nothing more than zombies. They can at any time, through the data, be programmed into super soldiers. These things can walk up the street with a Muslim outfit and look like a normal person, but their mission is to go walk 2 blocks and come back every 10 to 15 minutes. The movements of these individuals should be watched closely. These are kamikaze, ground level soldiers that can be deployed at scale according to the data collection and targeting. It will know. So you ask, well, how will it know who is the enemy? Because it has collected data, and those data points synthesize everything that is the enemy and everything that is not of their side so that they can avoid friendly fire, lest we have soldiers who are spies living in those urban centers, which is an extremely dangerous proposition. And I know that there are people around the world involved in espionage. When you have individuals that are essentially being used as data collection, data distribution through the cloud, and can be deployed for collection from intelligence from other human beings, when well, independently, and also they can be programmed strategically on schedule, but they can also be used for pickup. They can also be used as expendables, as so-called quote unquote crowd, the crowd control. You have these people out there and they're all are clones. They are clones, and they are submitting the information. It's being received and it's being acted upon because of artificial intelligence. They're analyzing the data to determine uh, instantly, without any type of human uh, interaction. It comes out in the report so that it's condensed, so that it's understood what is happening on the side of intelligence. If there's an uptick in vehicles, if there's an uptick, should there be more security deployed to this neighborhood? To this, is this being used possibly as a thoroughfare because this license plate has come down the street so many times? This individual, this height, this weight, this stature, this walk, this clothing style, this type of connection. They're moving in an eastward direction. Either moving in the westward, northern. They're picking up. They're coming back with bags. So all of this is kamikaze surveillance by a clone that at any time could be deployed for the ground war. Now, what goes into the mind of that clone in terms of physical defense? Will the clone be armed with with a gun, with a knife? Will it be physical combat? Will they be used, as I said, in the Middle Eastern wall of uh, gangland type of gang stalking shields? Will they be wearing body armor? Those things I did not see, but they are clones. On the other side of the clones, there are actual robots. The Iranian regime, please subscribe to our page. The Iranian regime is using robots in the war, in those buildings where the people are being siloed to be drafted into the war, that look like office buildings, that look like shelters that are people are just sheltering in place. The plainclothes Iranian military is fortifying, bringing food, doing trainings, teaching them and preparing them for the ground invasion. This is a war that they are not looking to lose. They're looking to train and to set up a pipeline of all their people. They're willing to put every last one of their people into service for the fact of their suicidal tendencies of war, and continuing that from the oldest to the youngest. This is an inevitability. They put the robots in the building to do surveillance to see who was a traitor, who has information that we did not have. And those robots put that information, and they're known as robots. So they sit in very stationary places, but they're involved in the ear hustling, listening, putting information together. Uh, those are so it's basically using those people that come from those farm and feudal hamlets far out from the urban centers, introducing them to something that looks futuristic, something that says and speaks of power, that speaks of influence and international capacity, to have these robots sitting around in these buildings that are being brought in boxes and are being unboxed, and then the whole room will gasp, "Oh my goodness, what is this?" Well, this is so and so, and this is, uh, a part of their drone technology cadre of assault items. Having these robots inside of the urban centers is also building an allegiance to Khamenei, because it's saying that we were stronger than we knew. We were stronger in the war than was even uh, that we were even conscious of, because this is also an example of how they will transition and deploy and then bring them into the knowledge of the full assertion of what is being deployed on the Iranian side in the war, according to my remote viewing. This is a very terroristic and futuristic war that is being waged in Iran. It is not just guns and missiles. That's just the outer shell of this thing. This thing is going to deepen. It's going to deepen because the belief that these individuals have that this war is essential to their national sovereignty, their nation building, that their power over other Middle Eastern countries, which Iran is a very large physical area. It's not extremely populous. It's not extremely um, fertile or rich in anything, but the courage that they have and the belief that they have of how they've been brainwashed into feeling that they have um, a capacity that they really don't, is even more dangerous because they have people living in a different reality, and it's being put up by these assertion of wartime resources that are being deployed, and they're brainwashing them in those buildings to think higher. They may have worked in that building at a printing press, and that's all that they know. No education, illiterate, uh, deploying these certain uh, trust valuables into the hearts and minds of these individuals is absolutely amazing to watch how they were responding to every little thing. And also, they are certainly living under the gun to the point that they cannot afford to even appear that allegiance is uh, is not total and absolute. These are light decoys. The people in Iran, the military, they are deploying light decoys, which are a black mirror remote virtual technology that creates mirages and appearances. For example, a black mirror tech could be deployed at a four-way stop sign area or a four-way intersection on the road. And from one direction, it will appear that a car is racing down the street in one direction. And since you're maybe 500 or 1,000 feet away, you may have a radio and report there's a car going westward on uh, on Main Street and Fourth. It's going westward down Fourth. Okay, so you deploy something because of the black mirror tech that you saw that was actually an illusion. And you can say, for example, you're 2,000 feet away, you look up the road from another direction in an urban center. These urban centers are designed in a certain way. You look up the road, you see a crowd of people and they're running in a certain direction, and you say, oh my goodness, I'm instantly overpowered because of what I see ahead of me thousands of feet away, but I must send the message about these people. So from every direction of that particular intersection, data and information is being deployed. And guess what? Before you get to that intersection where the black mirror technology is, it's blocked off. So you can already see that nothing can come up this street or that street, but down there, something is happening. So it's misinformation, and it's also uh, intimidation. It could be presenting from one direction that there are tanks, that there are resources at that intersection, and there could be even soldiers on the street telling you go back. From 1,000 or 2,000 feet away, go back. Go back. Don't you see that down there is uh, is a staging area for where the war is? So people are passing on information that there's something big, there's something very powerful in this area. This also with the Middle Eastern styled street dancing, the war, using those individuals to dance into war. This Black Mirror light decoy that they're using could also present these types of aspects, could maybe perhaps show the filming of how these people are moving. And you're looking down, say, if you're looking down the street or from a certain angle, it would be indistinguishable from every direction, even from a fourth floor, fifth floor, sixth floor building, looking down. You would, from that angle, it would appear that you're looking down upon those individuals, because it is essentially a dome of an illusion in that area, and from every angle it will be presented, um, for those purposes of propaganda and intimidation, and uh, the fear that will strike individuals by seeing these type of things. You have a country that is plunged into darkness. There are no lights. The only lights that they see come from the military. And whatever that they believe and have put forward to them, they will continue to believe. So, as perhaps soldiers will shoot at that light decoy, they will see the Middle Eastern dance assortment, the arrangement of how they move so smoothly as one, yet they are unarmed. Yet the perception is that they are harmless. So if a firefight were to ensue, bullets would fly toward that light decoy illusion. It may go dark. It may be some type of enmeshment in electrical technology that's nothing more than a light show. And then the areas near those decoys could be depopulated as those people are moved away. And that decoy is presented as a fortress, a place that you don't go to, a place that has been blocked off by many other streets before you even get there. So it is giving the illusion that there is a power center within throughout these urban centers on the ground in Iran. Yet, because there may be uh, an insignificant amount of technology or weaponry being deployed from those centers, they can be used as a quasi light, a light staging area where people can go in and go out of this illusory atmosphere. Excuse me. And be able to distribute weaponry, supplies, and things out of this place to keep the Iranian people away and to keep soldiers away, because the illusion is that that would be the place that would be the most dangerous, that we focus on the last. But it's essentially pushing back harm for blocks and blocks, which could serve as a significant um, perception of power and positioning, yet it isn't a complete Black Mirror illusion. The artificial agencies I talked about earlier, those agencies are essentially moving people into Iran, moving people out of Iran, but it looks like a well meaning, innocent business. And in times of war, oh, we should avoid that place. Like when Israel hit the hospital, that was significant and tragic, because people said it's a hospital. Why would that be a target? Yet the hospital had been taken over internally. They're doing the same thing in Iran, gathering intelligence on these artificial agencies, on what the agencies are supposed to be, and running reconnaissance, running surveillance, working with the ground to figure out who's being in there. But if they're moving people in and out, there's only but so much that you'll get at any time, because there's so much movement. Um, Yet knowing where their power centers are could serve to create a type of advantage. So dismantling buildings, they are basically right now taking the rubble and the buildings there. They're already planning for the ground. What they're waiting for is the ground war. And this is because they have the perception that their land is what is desired. What we want is a behavioral change. What we want is a structural change. They are wanting, they've sold the people and brainwashed them into believing that the land is actually desirable and that somehow oil and all of these different things that they have are are so significant that protecting their ground is all that they should be concerned about. They are dismantling useless buildings. They have constructed buildings that have no type of infrastructure when inside are essentially shell buildings. They're taking all the concrete, the steel, all the things, they're demolishing them because you have people, buildings that have been destroyed. So you have already construction equipment clearing out areas, trying to restore order. They have insurance money coming in. They have all kinds of things that are happening in Iran. You believe it or not, even in war, they have these buildings that have been insured by Iranian firms, so they're able to do these things. So what is happening is the government is repatriating the rubble so that drones with arms can be deployed with actual boulders, harmful, dangerous things from the sky at scale. You got hundreds of drones carrying rubble, dozens of pounds, hundreds of pounds, even up to 1,000 pounds or more. Carrying these things in the sky could be deployed with these huge drones in synchronized fashion, dropping essentially rubble from the sky onto their enemies. So, this is a very dangerous tactic, but these are being used as farms to keep that material there so that in the event of the ground war, when it begins, they're able to synchronize those drones moving forward. And this is a key thing. Where are these drones coming from? Do they create them? Are they buying them? They're betting everything on drones. It's guerrilla warfare. When you have men that are being trained to use their unarmed bodies as a dance team to confuse, to almost work as boxers, like a boxing match, to wear out the enemy and to wear out the enemy with information or lack of information or confusion or disorientation. It's some type of tactic to in the fact and the event that there are no weapons and there are no soldiers that are deputized at a high level, trained according to their specs, who could carry weapons or could be used in that type of battle. They know that the biggest thing they have going for them is that their enemy actually has ethics and morals. When you have people who are fighting you, who have morals and ethics, they have limitations. And when you have none, you have no ethics and no limitations and nothing that you won't do, that gives you a distinct perception of advantage. But if you have soldiers who are so hard nosed about what they won't do in war, then that may put you at a disadvantage and they may be easily befuddled by illusions, by perceptions of the enemy that are false, by fear of getting in trouble, by fear of being responsible for something that you didn't know, that you didn't understand, that you couldn't understand the mindset of your enemy. And it creates a conundrum because who do you send when you have all these levels of psionic engagement? You have mental propaganda, you have people in buildings that are looking like employees, you have people that are supposedly have been unhoused, you have people that are supposedly seeking food, you have people who are supposedly on your side. These are the games of war. So it is becoming guerrilla warfare because we don't know what they're going to deploy or how they're going to deploy it because they're not on the same level. They're actually using different techniques and modalities in war. So their assortment is much different from other countries because this is who they are and this is what they believe and this is what they've done. These propaganda factories, they have these propaganda factories that have essentially sold themselves out to international bankers. Someone is funding on the side, on the hedge fund side, against, just as I said, there's a company that's working with the clones, that the information is going up and going down all over the world, and this company, everybody knows who it is. These propaganda factories are putting people on television, in media, to give the perception that surrender would be more dignified, would be more respectful. We have to respect people who do these things, whether we know that they do or we don't. So it's putting people in a very hard position to discern the truth because the truth does not always include surrender, weakness, and fear of the inevitable. But what does that mean when you have unarmed people who are willing to dance before guns so that the uh, mental and emotional status of soldiers would be absolutely excoriated because they don't know if they're shooting innocent people or if these people are actually armed or not. They've never seen anything like it. They're not prepared for it. This is why I'm putting this intelligence out. This is something that I've never seen. These men were dancing and moving like Beyonce or the Matrix. So, oh, is this the welcome? Is this the welcome table of people that are on our side who are just looking for our help? So they have this whole thing. They're gassing up soldiers, saying you're helping people, you're doing this, you're doing that. The motivations in the minds of a soldier, and then in the minds of another type of soldier, or even a super soldier, or a clone, or a robot propaganda machine, or a propaganda factory, just like I'm talking about now, when you have people in news media, they've been so educated by this civil minded society that they have no clue about what it is to engage with someone who has no morals, ethics, or values outside of murdering every last one of you. How do you get the war to a level where the leadership will be taken to the point where they will understand, or rather be able to be removed? There's no middle ground. We're in a war that there's no middle ground. And through my remote viewing, seeing all this, understanding that the deployment of futuristic elements, ancient elements, mysticism, illusions, mirage, magic. This is something that the United States and its allies may not have ever encountered before in such an organized and synchronized fashion. In addition to the drones, in addition to unarmed drones carrying rocks, dropping them on people strategically, being trained, those drones being trained with speed and with power. We're not talking about slow and weak. We're talking about aim, shoot, go automatically, and it's already locked in its target. It already knows at what speed to drop that thing, and it's going to shoot like a rocket down onto someone. We're talking about deadly, deadly war games that are being played, and training, deployment of all these technologies together, which is horrific. Consumerism is something that is the people who are on the other side of Iran, they're using consumerism to keep us away from this information. If they can keep us entangled and corralled outside of this war, they don't want, for some reason, the propaganda factories, they don't want to create this nationalistic, angry, angry population. They're trying to keep all of the people outside of Iran thinking that if we can just be mild mannered and we can just be satisfied and settled, that we're not going to exacerbate something that's so unpredictable. This is what's going on. I don't know if the United States government is aware of this level of mystical action fused with futuristic and quasi-futuristic technologies, but and also international companies that have come in profiteering and are being deployed in the training and the execution of the effectiveness of these materials. But it is essentially happening. This is what we should keep our eyes on. The carrier drones, they are carrying physical materials that are extremely dangerous, and they're essentially being used as zoom launchers. For my remote viewing, seeing those drones soar in lines, in very perfect coordinated lines in the sky, I looked up, I said, oh my God, is it also, and my question was, is it also armed? What I recognize is that the drones were not armed, but they were armed with those physical items and being used as rocket launchers, which essentially gives them infinite projectiles. So projectiles in the form of rocks and boulders, and you have these things zooming at an incredible speed and launching those heavy, heavy materials, which is extremely frightening. And in the middle, seeing the foreigners going into those fake agencies, trading trading ship and using those agencies as cover. And those people were supposed to be on the side of the Americans and the Allies, and they were jumping ship, those foreigners, in the middle of the war in Iran, leaving the American and Allied military, going into those fake agencies to be able to be repatriated back to their own countries while in the middle of war, serving on the side of the United States. We have to wake up. We have to wake up. You can't just put a jacket on a soldier and all of a sudden make him love a country. They love their families and their lifestyle more. There's been no conditioning, almost no conditioning done. The whole reason why they were in the United States is to get something from the United States, such as money, citizenship, favor, education, all of those types of things. They're not here for to enjoy the country at all. And while going into war and realizing how much of a mystical and phantasmagoric and confusing, paradoxical experience that Iran wants to bring people into, they are jumping ship out of, I would say, out of every 15 of them, there was one that would go into working with the coyotes, secretly getting out, using the urban centers and their access and their communication skills with those people to try to empathize and to try to uh, humanize humanize their quote unquote experience with those enemies, and use their systems to come in and out, and possibly even because of trade send people back through those same thoroughfares from their country to serve on the side of Iran. So they're exporting um, turncoat soldiers from the United States back to their countries, and they are importing those other poor and destitute individuals who have low morals, low values, low ethics, and are very selfish, greedy, and self centered, importing them into the war on the side of Iran because Iran has already proven that it can distribute and deploy their brother back to their country, and free. It's a show of power that they're able to recruit internationally into the war on the side of Iran. These are not all Iranians. These are people coming in because Iran has promised to give them something. And if America has already shown, and the propaganda mills are strong, that the xenophobia of the Americans and how they don't love these people and how they don't uh, appreciate all of the things that they've done to just to come here illegally into this country, because they don't appreciate us. Now they in the middle of the war. Keep your eyes open. Some of these people are traitors, propagandists. One out of every 15 of them went into that building